welcome back, everyone. It's your boy, Ben Humble, on the Data and the Drama Show, bringing you value every day. Folks, I love doing this with y'all, especially with this whole Corona thing going on, and folks are kind of scared. I'm looking to bring you more confidence every day. I'm looking to bring you amazing people and amazing stories that you can relate to and just bring you some inspiration and confidence in a time and a period when there's so much scarcity. So one big thing is I don't want you to live in any kind of self-induced depression or any otherwise. I want you to just take charge of your life. And today's such an amazing conversation about, someone who started from the bottom, right? Started in a really, difficult place in life. And, very similar to kind of my own journey, leaving communist country, fleeing on foot. And I've got an amazing guest today. My friend Pejman Ghadimi is going to be here joining me. So, folks, good to see you guys in the comments. We got Alan in the house. We got some folks up in here. Hey, Alan, what's going on, everybody? Do me a quick favor. If you guys are on the stream and you get tons of value from it, which I know you will, we don't charge you guys to do the show. But go ahead and just share the stream while we're live. Share my friend Pejman's story because it's such an amazing, inspiring, motivational piece. And I think a lot of people right now need to hear the message. So go ahead and share it and tag a car lover. We're going to be talking about some cool stuff here today. Before we get started with the episode, if you're brand new to the show, it's your first time, grab a free copy of Real Estate Secrets Exposed at humble.ceo. You can grab that. And if you're in Canadian real estate investing, we'd love to help you guys out. We're talking about becoming a millionaire today. We're talking about what does it take? Listen, is it a get-rich-quick thing? Is it a get-rich-overnight thing? Or does it require real grit, real endurance, real time, real perseverance? Does it require sacrifice? And, my guest today, Pejman Ghadimi, he's an author of several books here. One of his books has over 1.3 million, I think, copies sold, which is amazing. So without further ado, let me bring my man on here that I've been tracking for a while. Pejman, welcome to the show, my brother.
Hey, I appreciate you having me on, buddy.
Yeah, man. Good to see you. So, hey, I'd love to get started. Before we jump into your story, I do something a little fun, all right? You like jokes. You like fun and humor, right? Let's
do it, yeah.
Come on, man. By the way, I know we'll get into the story a little bit. You've got a beautiful piece on your wrist there. Could you tell us what that is? Because I know you're big into watches. What are you wearing today?
It's a Rolex Green Dial Daytona.
Dude.
It's a new Green Dial that's extremely difficult to get. And cool. So... I'm a big watch guy, so a lot of my pieces are always like very rare watches.
I love it. We're going to jump into that whole watch thing and the cars and the rest of that. But let's jump into our data and drama segment. This is the portion of the show where I'm going to ask you a question. You tell me, is it data or is it drama? Is it true or false? And folks at home, you can participate with us. Let us know in the comments what you think this is going to be. So data or drama, Pejman? The most expensive... I gotta say the question. He's just like, boom, drama. All right, let me hit you with the question, though. The most expensive Lamborghini that was ever sold is the Veneno Roadster, sold for a whopping $8 million. Is this true or false?
Well, it's true. It's true in the context of technically cars that have been sold on the market.
Okay.
So that is a true statement.
There you go. Dude, I knew you were going to be very knowledgeable on this topic, so I'm going to get real with my man right now, PJ, because so here's the deal. Based on our data, oh, that's the wrong button. That didn't work. What's up with these buttons? Okay. All right, so we're going to go with drama on this one because the most expensive Lamborghini was the Veneno Roadster, but it sold for $9.5 million instead of $8 million. Pretty crazy, though. I know that one's probably in your collection at this point, or it's going to be soon, right?
No, I mean, listen, there's cars sold by the hundreds every year, including extremely rare cars. So dollars, I don't always keep track of.
I love
it.
The
Veneno Roadster is the most expensive Lamborghini, not even in production, technically, just as a prototype.
We should play a quick game here before we get started. How to pronounce Lamborghini names? Because you ever see that thing on YouTube, man? Where people are like, how do you pronounce it? Gallardo, right? Let's try that. Yeah. How do you pronounce the Lamborghini Gallardo?
I say Gallardo.
Correct. It is actually Gallardo. That's correct. You're almost Italian at this point. You have so many Italian sports cars.
I always say you pronounce it the way you can afford it. If you can afford it, pronounce it any way you fucking want.
Dude, that is a very valid point. You claim it as...
People make fun of me all the time because I say McLaren. I'm like, hey, I got a McLaren. And they're like, and sometimes I say McLaren and they go, oh, it's McLaren. I'm like, no, it's McLaren because I can afford it and you can't.
There you
McLaren. Go. Or it's fucking McLaren.
I'm giving you the first bomb of the day because if you can afford it, you can pronounce it however you feel like. Exactly. I love that.
You want, it's your
I
car.
love that. Dude, so let's jump right into it because there's so much I want to cover with you guys today. By the way, good to see you guys on here. We got some folks in the house here. Guys, make sure you share the stream, tag a car lover, tag an investor and an entrepreneur. And PJ, you know we're up here in Canada, dude, but we watch Americans a lot because you guys are leading the path. So you've done some amazing things, and I'll just quickly kind of sum this up, and then we can jump in here. But you've got several businesses, am I right? You're doing, many millions of dollars of revenue a year on multiple businesses. I first got to know you through Exotic Car Hacks, which was a course, training, and kind of theory around how to buy exotic vehicles and basically use them and essentially sell them or make more money, or basically drive them for the same cost as a Honda or a cheaper vehicle. Watch Conspiracy is another one of your companies where you teach people how to own and use and sell, high-end watches. So you're doing quite well in life, but would you kind of take us back? Because I love getting right to the roots, my brother. Talk to me about the days back, just before you escaped, the revolution. Would you walk us through like kind of where that started?
Sure. So, left Iran very, very young. I was a couple of years old, and basically fled to France based on the revolution. Me and my mom. My dad was supposed to join us. He never did. So basically it became just me and my mom on the whole journey. We were pretty well off in Iran, but took off when we actually got to France. We were pretty poor because we were basically like refugees.
Right.
And ultimately that journey became like an 11-year journey with one opportunity to come to the United States. Everybody wants to obviously bring their kids here. That's kind of the goal, to bring them to the US for that opportunity. And for my mom, it was no different. She basically worked really hard to start a business in France that was basically like Kinko's digital imaging at the time, for like developing basically pictures from cameras, because we didn't have digital cameras at the time. So basically she was doing that, did really well, and put all of her heart and soul into that, and gave us a roof, shelter, food, and everything else during that time. And basically one chance she got to get to the US, and she basically took it. She left everything behind. She said, we got to go and we're not coming back. So we got on basically a plane, took everything we had into 3 suitcases, the little bit of money she could put aside. She left her business behind and basically took off. She took off and actually ended up in LA for a long time. And we tried really hard to get a green card, and obviously immigration's a mess. So, we tried all of our best, and we basically ended up with a social security number, but no real like opportunity to work, because it basically said on your card, you're not allowed to work. You just have basically what you guys refer to as a tax ID today, And so we basically made ends meet there, and we tried to set up a restaurant, like most Middle Easterners set up restaurants, because there isn't much else we can do. Sure.
Okay. Yeah, I get that.
So we had a coffee house, a pizza house, and whatever else we could figure out how to sell, and apparently that didn't work. So it didn't work to the point where we basically had no money, and we ended up taking a journey from California to Virginia, where we basically got stuck in my uncle's basement. Where it wasn't a bad thing. We just had at least a roof over our head, and we were trying to figure out what to do. And my mom just went basically to the point where she was working with my uncle, in his restaurant. And it just hit me one day that basically I didn't want that life anymore. And I realized my mom was out of energy. I had to start participating in life. I could no longer be a spectator and wait for things to happen for us, So I started working, and I started doing whatever I could. And of course, with not having a green card, it's very challenging. You can only do cheap labor work. And I found a way to basically wash cars for $1, $2, $5 a car. And people would, I had some people that I would wash cars for, and they were like, why are you doing this for $5 a car, $2 a car? It's like almost like free. And I was like, it is free to you, so it's fine. Like, and they would like, well, you're stupid, you're not making any money. And I would tell them, I said, listen, if I'm making $1 today, it's better than making no dollar. So I'd rather participate and make $1 than just attempt or not even attempt to make $1. So I tried to go work at McDonald's. They wouldn't take me in. They said basically I didn't have a green card, so I couldn't work. Until basically I kept washing cars until I was about 14 or so. And at that point, I figured out how to get a job as a telemarketer somewhere. I kind of finessed my way through the application process where I didn't realize I wasn't legal to work.
Okay.
And at the age of 14, basically, I became a telemarketer. And you know what it was? Is I thought it was customer service. I really didn't understand what telemarketing was. I didn't realize you were basically calling people and getting hanged up on all the time, which was okay. It was okay. It was better than washing cars for $2.
Sure.
So I said, I'll do it. It's $12 an hour, so I'll go and do that. And one of the things that happened is everybody in that office was very like, I hate this job. This job's stupid. It's basically temporary. I'm going to school type of thing. And I was going to school too, but for me, it wasn't really an opportunity because I didn't have another choice. So I basically said, you know what, I'm going to do a really good job. And basically I trained myself to be a really good telemarketer. By 16, I was basically the head of the telemarketing team, and I was making $2,500 a week, basically on commission. And then by 18, I was the director of that same company, having an 80K a year salary.
Wow.
And
Wow.
this was a big deal because by then I had a green card, meaning I had the opportunity to work. And so I decided to kind of put that behind me because I really didn't see a future there in the long term, because I was doing basically roofing, siding, and selling remodeling goods. And I decided that, I wanted to be in something that had a bigger ceiling, something I could go further. I had grown so far in such a short time. I decided to become a banker. And so I persuaded one of my mom's friends to basically get me an interview with a guy. And I went in for an interview, and the guy goes, what are you here for like sales or something? And I'm like, no, I'm here for a manager position. So he looks at me and he goes, you're an 18-year-old, you want to be a bank manager? And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, why? I go, because that's the only job that basically lets me keep my salary. Right. I was at 80. I was like, hey, give me a salary near that. And the closest thing you could find is a bank manager at 60. So I said, you know what? I'll take the bank manager at 60. And he just looks at me. He's like, it's never happening. So basically, I had this really big trick that I had spent 6 months basically observing this bank on how it worked, what functioned. And long story short, I basically convinced the guy to give me a job as a bank manager, so which made me one of the youngest bank managers in the United States at 18.
Dude, wow.
By 23, I was the director of that same bank. Basically, I was the vice president for the retail channel for that bank. And then at 25, I basically got fired. And that's how the start of my entrepreneur career kind of started, because I was basically on my ass without purpose and without a job,
Make sure to subscribe to Ben on YouTube so you can stay up to date on everything Humble, featuring daily episodes of the Humble Podcast and weekly video content providing motivation, real estate strategies, and personal development for everyday life. Also, follow Ben on Facebook and Instagram for daily interactions. Check out humble.ceo and download a chapter of Ben's new book, From Communism to Capitalism, absolutely free.
Wow. Let me backtrack, because you said so many important things here I want to touch on. Because folks at home, it's an amazing story of perseverance. And when you come from nothing, brother, like you and I come from the same place essentially, right? You come from nothing, and I'm the oldest of 9 kids. Came here, my dad doesn't speak English. They drop us in Canada, said go to work, and that's kind of how it is. So for you, what age did you start washing cars? Like, how old were you when you started that journey?
Well, I was about 13. We had just come. I was about 13 and a half, about to turn 14, because I was about 15. I was in my 14s when I got my job as a telemarketer, but I was almost 15.
So at 13, you're washing cars over here. You're thankful that you can make $1. And that mindset, that's probably one of the most pivotal things that you can have as an entrepreneur, is that at least I'm making $1 today, which is better than making 0 yesterday. And that sense of gratitude is, talk about that, would you? Because that's so important, I think.
It's a matter of not feeling entitled. I think a big difference between the immigrant mentality and the kind of like already here mentality is that people who have grown up here, there's nothing wrong with that, but there's an expectation there's a minimum expectation of survival being given to you.
Right.
And when you come from some of these other countries, we don't have that minimum expectation of survival, meaning, I'm sure it's the same for you as it was for me, but when you're in Iran, for example, you look up in the sky and you see some jet fighters flying by. You don't know if it's the enemy or the ally, right? Like, You don't know what's happening, meaning you're not sure if your survival is not guaranteed the next day. Versus, I've never, in my 20 plus years being in America, I've never watched or looked in the sky and ever doubted that I would see an enemy combatant air fighter in our airspace.
Yep.
It's such a impossible thing to even envision. So the same way that safety is basically almost guaranteed to people who live here, which I'm very humbled and blessed to have that safety now over my roof.
Amen.
Right? Yeah. It's something that I think coming from the outside in, you never expect. So I never expected someone to basically offer me more than $1 or $2 to wash a car, more than $5 to clean and detail up a car. To me, it was just the idea that I'm not entitled to anything. I'm just given the right to try. And if I'm given the right to try, then I have 2 choices, either try or not try.
Right.
And if I had the choice between the 2, it'd always be to try, even if it's a slim chance or maybe not very comfortable to try,
I love that. So as we kind of move through your story here, this whole idea of fear of failure. So many people are like, well, I'll go bankrupt, or I'll do this, or I'm so afraid of losing. When you're starting in the red and you're starting in the negative, it's like that fear in a way isn't even there, brother, because we're already starting behind. We need to catch up. So talk about that, like this whole idea of I'm afraid to fail, Pejman, so I don't even get started. I've got so many emotional fears and issues that I can't even begin. What do you say to something like that?
One of the things that I've always done in my life that has enabled me to try to make attempts at doing things that most people wouldn't do is basically try to ask myself where I wanted to be 10 years from now.
Okay.
And legitimately mean it, meaning like ask myself, what could I accomplish in 10 years? And then basically I would ask myself, what do I need to do today? Every day I would wake up, what do I need to do today to be one day closer to that goal? Only one day. I was never thinking like, what is my goal for the year? How much revenue do I make to make? Would I start a business if it made $5 million? Do I want to make $100 million? I basically looked at it as, where do I want to be? And then I told myself, well, I got to take one step in that direction, whatever that step is. The step could be setting up a website. The step could be basically figuring out some research or anything else. And the point was that if I basically took it step by step, I wouldn't worry so much about if I was doing well or not. And I think this is one of the biggest reasons why other people have fears, is because they're afraid of the judgment of others through that failure. They're afraid of their parents when their parents go, I told you you should have stayed in school. They're afraid of their friends saying, I told you it was a stupid idea. They're afraid of the humiliation of not making it. And one of the things that occurs that you need to realize is, you're not making it for anybody else. You're making it for you. You know, like, and you can't be too proud or not. When I got fired from banking, right? Like, so I get fired from my banking job.
Yep.
I'm already rich. I had made over $2 million in real estate. I was doing well. I had a 6-figure job with, a 7-figure payout bonus. So I was okay. The day I got fired, I remember leaving the bank in a beautiful 911 Turbo, getting home and getting in my Lamborghini and being like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like, I was like, I'm not bad, I'm okay. Like, I'm not struggling to figure out where I'm going to eat. So I'm like, it is what it is if I get fired. But the one thing that I realized that day is that what they did is basically they took my purpose away. Because I believed I was going to be a banker forever. I thought I was a really good banker, and I said, I'm going to be a bank CEO, like, before you know it. But
was that your identity? Was that your identity at that point? Like, you had like,
yeah, exactly.
You tied it to
That's
okay.
what my mind was. Because, I mean, imagine, like, you're a kid, you have nothing.
Yeah.
You're now making 7 figures a year in bonuses, in real estate, whole things. I mean, and you started with nothing, right? And you've grown so fast that you're the star child of this organization. So, like, they fed you every day with you're the model child of what every employee should look like. So I go, why would they ever take that away from themselves, right? I didn't mean me. I'm like, why would you fire your number one employee? It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
So when I lost that, I lost trust in the system. I lost trust in myself. I lost trust in everything. And I started realizing the thing that got me over the edge and turned it around is that I made the biggest revelation in my life. And it was basically that I never worked for anybody else. I used to think I would go to the bank and I was like, my boss was my boss, which I met with every 2 weeks and so on and so forth. But I realized that I never had a boss. I realized that I basically fired myself. And I also realized that I had never worked for anybody. And then people said, well, that doesn't make any sense because, yeah, you had a boss, someone else worked your checks. But I said, that's not true. Because you see, I worked for me. I wanted something. Right. I was getting the benefit of my work. I wasn't working for the bank. I was working for myself. I wanted a nicer car. I wanted a nicer house. I wanted a nicer life. I wanted freedom. So basically, I worked for myself. And what I did to work for myself is I offered my skills and talents to benefit myself doing tasks for others. When I started looking at my job that way, I basically started realizing that it was the same as starting a business. It was no different because I had always done that. So even though they took my title away, they can never take my skills and talents away.
Wow.
And so I realized I can apply these skills and talents to anything I do. And I should get started and do something else.
I love it. I'm going to hit a bomb for that. That's gold right there because you said something so critical when we did deconstruct this idea of you're not working for them, you're working for you. You're just trading your time, but you're acquiring maybe skills, you're acquiring knowledge, you're acquiring more and more wisdom and opportunity. I love this whole concept because people see business as risky, right, brother? Man, it's risky to start a business. I'm like, well, it's risky not to. Like, who are you relying on?
Riskier. Yeah, it's way riskier to not take action than to take action. Because what happens is it's going to take 10 years to be successful anyways. So the question is, are you going to struggle the 10 years? Let's say you're 24 years old today. You're looking at the future. You go, I'm going to be successful by 26. Wrong. I'm going to be successful by 34. Probably if you stick to it 10 years, right?
Sure.
But then people are like, that's a long time. And I go, well, you got two options. You can start now, be successful at 34, or you can wait and then at 34 wonder why you didn't start at 24.
That's true. That's very
so
true.
One way or another, you're coming to the same crossroad because the process doesn't change. It don't matter you're a genius child or you're a good guy or you're super driven or not. The process doesn't change.
Now you're getting to it.
What I'm saying is it is what it is. You know?
So talk about the sacrifice piece, man, because I think a lot of times we live in an immediate consumption, immediate gratification society where if I just, boom, I put an A, I get B. But the truth is, no, you're seeing the tip of the iceberg when you see you've got 2 Aventadors, you've got a Ghost, you've got all these amazing things. And it's like, well, but that wasn't there when I started. That's the tip of the iceberg. And there was a whole bunch of stuff underwater that was not visible at the time. Talk to me about the sacrifice, man. Because I want to get real with some folks. Like some people they think it's just going to turn over like this, but let's be honest, it's not. You got to really put in the work.
It's not even about sacrifice. I don't like that word because sacrifice would mean I had to give up something to get something, right? Like my mom sacrificed her life, her enjoyment, her pleasure for my security. That's a real sacrifice. Starting a business isn't a sacrifice. It's choosing. And I think the more we keep like kind of glorifying business in this all in or die kind of model, and we forever make people afraid to get started because they believe that they're going to need a level of mental fortitude that they don't have. So it's like saying you either go and date the hottest chick in the room or you never date anybody. Of course, that scares the shit out of people because they go, well, I'm not the best looking guy in the room.
Yeah, that's right.
So they look at it that way and they just basically sit there and they go, like, well, I ain't got big muscles. I'm not 8 feet tall. I don't got a 14-inch cock, forgive me for saying. Whatever it is, basically, whatever.
I'm giving you the drum on that one. All right, keep going, man.
Whatever your insecurity is,
sure.
You get to that place where you get so insecure where you go, I don't deserve that person.
Got it.
I don't deserve that victory. And one of the things we need to understand about business in general, right, is that it doesn't have to be do or die. So this word sacrifice is very dangerous, that definition. Instead, we should change it with the word choice. I chose to devote the next 10 years of my life to building a company instead of enjoying day in and day out fun, instead of going out on vacations, instead of putting all my eggs into one relationship and having children and things of the sort. And again, it doesn't have to be my way, right? Some people can do all 4. I had a very large goal. I chose to be selfish towards that goal. And I said, this is the priority of my life. Therefore, I'm not going to distract myself from this. And so people today look back and go, don't you miss your 20s where you could have gone on vacations in these nice places? Well, I remember my 20s. I'll tell you something that was really interesting. One day when I wasn't that rich, I was like in my early 20s. One of my friends says, do you want to go to Italy? And I go, oh my God, that sounds incredible. Where are we going to go? And he goes, well, I got these cheap seats on this plane. We can get there for $700. And basically when we get there, we got this hotel room. It's not the best, but it's in Rome. We can kind of explore the city. And I think to myself, I'm like, okay, let me get this straight. You want me to get to Italy so I can be a peasant in Italy and basically not be able to afford shit in Italy.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to give up making money now so I can go and explore Italy in my 20s broke.
Yeah.
And he goes, no, man, it's about the adventure. And I'm like, I'll tell you what I'd rather do is wait 10 years because Italy, I'm pretty sure is still going to be a country in 10 years. And I'm going to visit Italy in 5-star hotels. I'm going to get there in first class. I'm going to enjoy all the best food Italy has to offer, the best seats, watching the Colosseum and doing all of these things possible. And I'm not going to worry about it. And I think I would rather wait for that experience to experience Italy properly than just be able to write a check mark off of my tombstone and be like, he saw Italy. Who gives a shit? You have YouTube. Watch Italy on YouTube.
You didn't see it that way. So talk to me about this prerequisite idea. I think this is something interesting with people where they go, well, must have been nice. He got fired from the job and then he was able to jump into business. He got lucky. He got whatever. And they're waiting for some kind of prerequisite where something needs to happen before they can take action and start a business. But let me go back a little bit. Your dialogue was, no, man, at 13, I started washing cars. And then at 16, I was like, man, I got this. I made a couple more bucks. And at 18, I got a couple more bucks. And you were pushing consistently. So when it came time to make a pivot, you were already in momentum. Where a lot of people, they're in stagnation and they have a hard time just getting started because they can't do the smallest minuscule step, let alone, the big leaps that they need to do to be successful in business. So talk about that momentum piece. I think people see this massive divide, and maybe that's why it's scary for people to get into business.
Because people divide their work from their business, from their job, from their family, from everything. They compartmentalize success. They look at it as one bucket here, one bucket here, one bucket. They don't realize that you are the success. It's you, meaning you are the puzzle piece, right? Not the things you do. So I can tell you one thing. There are years in my life where I've questioned where my direction was, what I was going to do. But there has never been one year since I was 13 years old where the year before I made more money than the year after. And I'm not saying I had a business and it was that, meaning I've always pushed the envelope of personal growth so that I never calculated my wins based on my business. I calculated them based on my personal victory.
Wow.
So my victory over myself, was I better this year? Not just by making money, was I in a better position this year than I was last year? When I got fired from that job, I lost my purpose for about a year, meaning I was kind of like trying to really understand about myself, what I wanted to do. I mean, remember, I was fired from a job where no one else was going to rehire me for that job. So basically, I was fired from my career identity as a banker. So when I decided what I was going to do again, I didn't know, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to make millions of dollars. I'm going to go do this. That's how the business is going to work. You know what happens? You're going to laugh. I went back to washing cars. And the guys, I had hired a Bolivian guy and a Mexican guy to wash cars with me that didn't have green cards at the time. And they were still washing cars. It was years later. They were still doing it. Yep. So I caught up with them and I said, what are you guys doing? They go, we're detailing cars now. We're charging anywhere from $50 to $100. And I go, that's cool. Let me do it with you. And they look at me, they go, okay, Mr. Big Shot 7-figure banker is going to come wash cars with us. Yeah. And I go, yeah, I'll fuck my suit. I'll just put on a t-shirt, pants, and I'll come work with you guys. Yep. And they go, why would you do that? I go, because I'd rather work than not work. And I really don't want to go back to another job somewhere because I don't really know what I want to do. So instead of starting something I'm not going to finish, let me start something temporary that can inspire me to do something else. And you know what happened? We were doing a job and we went to this client's house to clean his car. And I look across the street and I see a building that's abandoned. And I knew commercial real estate. So I started looking at that building and I was like, wait a minute. That building looks really good. It's a really good location, but it's not that pretty. So I started inquiring about the building. And 3 months later, I owned that building. And I basically told the guys, I said, now we have a location. Let's get more streamlined about our business. Let's start building this business up and actually have not just mobile cleaning, but let's actually have tuning. Let's do other things to cars here and we'll just make it work. And you know what happened? That business started taking off and I let them do the washes and I kept going and expanding that building. And after a while, I had all of these dealerships on contract that basically did wheels, tires, everything with us. And what happened is the greatest thing ever happened. The first recession started showing its face in 2007. Okay. And I started seeing, because I was a banker, I knew it was coming. I started seeing the defaults. I started paying attention. I started saying something is going to happen. And I walked in a dealership and I said, are you going to cut my contracts? And they said, well, we wanted to talk to you about that. We haven't sold as many cars. I don't think it's going to fly. And you know what they said to me? They said, well, we don't even know if we're going to be in business. And that's when the whole idea in my head popped that I can probably buy cars really cheap right now because they ain't going to be in business anyways. Okay. And that's what gave birth to VIP Motoring, which was my first big company out of Virginia, which I still own today, but I don't work at anymore. And that company became the founding block of all of my entrepreneurial journey.
So that one company, but up until that point, just to go back and track here, you came back and got your hands dirty. Again, this whole pride thing, which is, I love your story, dude, because you're breeding my humble brand right now. Like, get back in the crap, get your hands dirty. Like, there's no, I'm too good, I'm too entitled. I think that is the disease, my man. It's the entitlement. It's the entitlement of, I deserve this. You deserve nothing. You deserve to be alive, have breath in your lungs, and if you have that, then you just need to go and work and figure it out, because the truth is, for every one of you, there's 10 other people who don't have that opportunity. Like, we don't see it, that's why.
You deserve what you can get.
Yeah.
You deserve what you can get. If someone says, listen, I got in a job for $12 an hour. I deserve 15. Well, you do not, because you could not earn 15 because you lack the negotiation skills. You lack the sales skills. You lacked all these other skills that obviously made someone else worth 15. And that person wasn't you. If it was, you would be in a position where you'd be earning 15. So instead of complaining about how come you don't earn something, then have a plan to getting there. But you can't ignore what you have to do today because of what you want to do tomorrow. And I think that's the big problem. Some guys go, well, I'm not going to work for less than 18. And I look at them and I'm like, that's fine, then don't work. But do you have a job lined up for 15? No. So wait, so you're willing to make nothing.
Yeah.
And then at one time, maybe you'll make 18 rather than what now, like 15 versus 18? Like, I don't understand. So every day you don't work, basically it's like you just worked at 10 the whole like
That's
year.
right. And if you take that aggregate, you take the aggregate time and you divide it by the days you didn't work, now you may have made $5 or $6 an hour because you didn't work.
How in my banking career, I had employees come to me and I was like, hey, you're going to get promoted. You're going to get your title as bank manager. And they were like, oh my God, that's amazing. And I was like, your raise is $7,000. They looked at me, they go, I can't work here without a raise of at least $8,000. So I would look at them. And be like,
I love that guy.
Let me bust out a calculator. I had a calculator like this, like a tiny ass calculator. I wanted to make them feel retarded, right? I pulled out this calculator and I said, let's put on here that we're arguing about $3,000. They would be like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so let's time it by 27%, which is basically your taxes. That leaves you $2,200. Let's divide that by 26 pay periods. That means we're arguing about $84. I was like, you are telling me you're going to renounce a career opportunity over one dinner every 2 weeks. And people don't think that way, man. People think they deserve something and they get this shit in their head that they need to get it.
Well, it's the essence of the show, brother. It's not the data, it's the drama. So you're focusing on the drama, the entitlement, instead of breaking it down to the core fundamentals. Say, hey, dude, this is the actual math. And a lot of times we're so ingrained in our emotional brain that the practical, logical brain doesn't have a chance. Hey, it's Ben Humble. Thanks for checking out the show. If you like what my guest is talking about and you're getting massive value from it, then scroll to the bottom, open up the description, and follow them on social media. Support them, connect with them. Just scroll down there, click the link, and let's roll. Stay humble. So let's keep going on this, man. So 25, boom, you're done. You know, you're out of the, the corporate world. Now you're into small business. You jump in, you create this business in 2008. Talk to us from that point forward, because, now the story is getting really deep. So go from there. What happens in that juncture of time?
So 2008, I basically started rebuilding my first business, VIP Motoring, into this real investment firm where I combine my banking skills along with my passion in automotive, and basically bring forward the first investment company that enables people to make investments in exotics, watches, and art, right?
Okay.
So we built this company up. It's fantastic. And literally a year after, I remember it was the end of 2008, I basically started thinking to myself, I went to a club, I pulled my newer Lamborghini this time, doors go up, I get excited. The guy's like, hey, we got your table ready. I'm living the dream in my head, right?
Yeah,
I'm
man.
If you couldn't be any more of a pimp, this is it, right? So I basically in my head, I walk in this club, and as I'm walking, I hear one of the chicks in line is like, hey, it's that guy with the Lamborghini is always here. And what's really funny is she didn't point to me. She didn't even see me. She just recognized my car. Mm-hmm. And I realized that day, I said, how insignificant I am is that I have all this money, I have all this success, and yet nobody knows who I am.
Okay.
But they know my car. So what happens when I die? Well, they're not going to remember me. I'm only as good as the next guy that brings a nicer car, right?
Yep.
So I completely, dude, overnight, do a complete 180 and decide, you know what do I want to do to be remembered? So I decide that day, I remember it's crazy. I told myself, I said, in 10 years, I want to be everywhere. I want to be in people's minds for what I'm extremely talented at. And then I started asking myself, say, what the hell am I talented at? I'm really good at business, but I don't know what part of it. And then I started doing some soul searching, and I realized I'm a really good teacher, like really, really good teacher. And so I started deciding, I said, you know what I want to do? I want to teach online. And I want to teach people all the things I know. So I'm going to start writing my thoughts on this blog. And in 2008, I remember it was the end of 2008, I started a blog called Secret Consulting, and I had all of my friends and employees, and people were like, this is stupid. I remember my girlfriend was like, this is retarded. Why are you doing this? And I was like, because I believe I want to teach. And she goes, you're making all this money and now you're writing in this stupid blog. Who cares? No one's reading it anyways. And it was true. Nobody was reading it, but I kept writing. And you know what I knew then? I knew one thing then, which was that my business, as exciting as it was in its growth stage, could not last forever. And I knew that I knew nothing about online. I knew nothing about it. It was too early. I knew nothing about it. So I knew that if I started in 2008, it would take me 10 years to get good at it, because I always planned to be doing something 10 years or I won't be doing it. So I knew that by 2018, if I started then, I would get it and I would become what I wanted to do in that space. And so I started online. While I held VIP Motoring, I would work during the day there. I would come home at night, work on my blog. I would basically start writing. And 2009, I made zero money from the blog. 2010, I made zero money from the blog. 2011, I made $40,000 between me and my two partners that we shared, which means that I basically made what I made in a day, in a year of work, you know? And in 2012, I 10x that. And in 2013, it made $3 million.
Wow.
And I validated basically everything I had worked for the last 6 years. And one of the things that occurred then is I realized right then and there, not that I was rich, who cares about $3 million? At that time, we were doing almost like $60 million at VIP, so it didn't make any sense. But someone asked me later, it was about 2015, when all of my sites together were doing almost like $8 million. And someone asked me something really interesting. They said, so finally, you're almost 10 years and you almost did it. You almost made it in that space. And I said, I haven't even nearly made it, but okay. And he says, well, why would you now look at your other business? You're not doing almost like $90 million a year in revenue, right? And he in sales. And he goes, in this business, what is making $10 million a year? And I'm like, no, less than that. And they said to me, why would you care to build a business to make 10 when you have another one making almost 100? And I said, listen, because this is the same principle that has helped me make millions when I was in banking working for other people. I'm not worried about the drama or the glamour, so you call it the drama, right?
Drama, man. No drama.
I'm worried about the data.
Yes,
and let me tell you how the data functioned. The data was that I had basically a near $100 million company that was paying me $1.2 million a year. And I had a near $8 million company that was paying me $6 million in my pocket. Which one would you rather have? A big company that pays you very little, that has a lot of moving parts, a lot of liabilities, a lot of issues, or a small company that's putting all the money in your pocket?
Yep.
So I said I had done what basically most people couldn't do. I had optimized the greatest and most efficient way to build a business that had almost zero overhead, a very small team, an excellent succession strategy, and an automation above and beyond anything. And I could duplicate it site after site after site and make every one of them a show. Because what I had done is basically spend the last 6.5 years not building a business, but learning how to be in this business. And this is the difference that people never realize.
I love this. So really, if I understand this correctly, you are the asset. I am the asset.
Well,
the individual is the asset, not necessarily the business. So walk me through it.
The business is the asset.
Okay.
But you can't expect a business to work for you without you learning to work for the business. And I think this is one of the big issues with people. Everybody looking for passive income. Income doesn't become passive until the active party enables it with the knowledge to create a model that becomes passive. And I think people are seeking the income without seeking the active work. And you see, I realized that I couldn't create passive sites without actually learning to do the work. So when we say, oh, well, today PJ does one ad on Facebook and basically he turns around and he makes $300,000 off that. Well, it worked that way because I spent 6 years learning what converts an ad in general online. And then I was able to apply that to Facebook so I can do only one ad and basically maximize its effect. But people are trying to get to that from the very beginning. They go, because PJ does one ad and makes all this money, and I'm going to do one ad and I don't make this money, well, I don't know, something's wrong with what I'm doing. And this is one of the biggest mistakes when comparing yourself to others. You can't compare basically your day one to my day 6 years later.
Yep.
You know,
it's different seasons. You're in different seasons of life, and you've got different opportunities, different mindset, different everything. Talk to me.
You learn different things.
You learn different because everybody learns differently. Sure.
Yeah.
Talk to me about mentorship, man. So I think because people are always looking, what's the shortcut? And for me, the only real shortcut, which isn't a great word, but mentorship, getting somebody else's counsel, not advice, getting somebody who's experienced, who's done it, who can speak through the different challenges in a way, you know, wisely because they've experienced them and they have that intuition about it. Where does mentorship play a role in this for somebody who's like, hey, PJ, I want to do something? Yeah.
No, listen, very good question. I actually have a very different view on mentorship.
Sure.
I'm sure a lot of viewers here are saying mentorship is basically either I pay a mentor or I find someone who's done it and I ask him, what did you do? How did you do it? I'm going to do it the same way.
Okay.
And I look at mentorship very differently. Mm-hmm. You said something very interesting right before. You said everything is different because everyone is different, right? So, you know, we can't say like, because I have certain skills, if I'm an expert negotiator going into entrepreneurship and you're not, I have a competitive advantage over you, you know, basically. So you can't compare and say, even if I get a mentor or not, I'm going to overcome the fact that I am or I'm not a good negotiator, you know? So one of the ways I look at mentorship is basically only to fuel belief in the direction. So basically, you know, growing up into the space, I never had a person that I admired or looked up to and said, oh, you're that guy that's doing this. I want to do what you do. Instead, I surrounded myself with incredible bloggers and people who had done very well in this space. And I only asked them about their success. So I said, basically asking them not how they did what they did. I didn't want their strategy. It had nothing to do with what I was doing. What it had to do with, I said, in year 1, did you make any money? They go, no. How about in year 5? They go, I barely made 20 grand. So then it validates in my head. I go, wait, that's the same as me. So it's not that bad anymore for me. You know, like it's not that bad for me. The fact that I can look at that and basically say now that, wait a minute, he's just like me. This person that's now found $20-30 million in success, he's now sitting there telling me on year 5 he was making 20. And look, on year 5, I'm making 400. I'm way ahead of this guy, and yet I'm way behind, but I'm not. I'm way ahead of his journey, right? And as I compared it to other people, I started realizing that I was on the right path. And I stopped seeking where do I go on that path, and instead I started focusing on, do I keep going and getting better at what I do? And I think once you make that commitment to no longer compare yourself, but rather focus on the direction, you basically commit to the art and the mastery of what you do, and you don't commit to the money you make. And then you realize the money follows right after.
Yeah. Well, the comparison doesn't help you. I've heard it said that it's like we look at our neighbor's oasis and we just assume that we have a desert, but really we have our own little garden that we could cultivate, but we're so busy looking at the oasis next door, which we can never verify, by the way. We just assume it's an oasis, that we focus so much on that we don't ever focus on this. So talk to me about staying in your lane, man. Like, how important is it in your mindset when you've got something that you're just going and you're not getting so easily distracted, or shiny object syndrome, which is so easy in today's society to get to? What do you do for that, or what advice do you have for people who may be struggling with that?
So the way I look at it is basically really simple. I ask myself, do I want to be in a business 10 years from now? And then I ask myself, you know, a lot of people bring things up to me and say, you can make $1 billion in this business. We could be doing this new business. There's $100 million in profit in it. I look at that and I said, the question isn't, is there $1 billion industry? Is it a $20 billion business? The question is there $1 billion in it for me? And I think a lot of times the answer is no. Like if someone comes to me and goes, listen, I got this great idea in medicine. We're going to revolutionize doctors' offices. And, you know, all I need is a 200 grand investment. I look at that person and I say, what is my competitive advantage in this space? And the answer is usually nothing. I'm not in the medical space, so that's not where I am. So I look at that and I go, I'm sorry, it's not for me. And they go, you haven't even heard how good my idea is.
Yeah. And
it doesn't matter because it's not an idea that I can help you with. It doesn't mean that it's not going to make it. It doesn't mean it's not good. It doesn't mean there isn't $1 billion in it. It's not how I'm going to make my billion in that industry. And once we learn to say no more often, then we learn to actually commit to the things we've said yes to. And so if we commit to those things, then therefore we will always see them true to the end. you can't say like, I hate my city, so I'm going to move to another city. I'll have more luck there. Because the reason you hate your city is because you suck in your city. And that's the problem. Even if you move yourself to a new city with the same habits, you're still going to suck there too. It's not going to change anything.
So this touches on something that you said. You said, he who masters himself masters the world. Is that where this ties in? Because I know
Absolutely.
You said that. Yeah.
If you don't commit, like, look, there's two types of people in the world: people who commit to masters and people who commit to mastery.
Right.
Masters are people who worship or wait for others to do for them. You wait for government to help you. You wait for God to help you. You basically sit back and go, I can't function without someone, like, open the door for me. Show me my purpose, unveil it for me. And there's those that understand that purpose is a byproduct of you mastering the skills you've been given until you choose the purpose you wish to follow, you know? So ultimately, one of the best ways to master yourself, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, blame yourself for everything that happens to you. Meaning, a drunk driver fucking nails you on the road. You didn't do a single thing wrong. Blame yourself for that incident. Do you know why? Because after that incident, you're not going to dwell on it. You're going to actually correct the issue and move forward. But when you're a victim, you end up victimizing yourself to the point you get paralyzed, and then basically you don't move forward. And if you get stuck being a victim, then you're losing time. And I don't care how much it wasn't your fault. If it's your fault, you'll solve the issue. If it's not your fault, you'll sit there and blame others for why the issue hasn't been solved. So if you blame yourself for everything that happens to you, even if there was nothing you could have done differently that would have led to a different outcome, you will therefore blame yourself for the solutions to follow. And you will find the solutions much faster than if you blame others. The same way I used to blame people for why I got fired, and I stopped and I said, I fired myself. So let me correct the situation and no longer blame them for this issue, and blame myself for not conforming, not wanting to be a slave, not listening, not wanting to be that guy that fit in. Hey, listen, I looked outside my window one day when I was in banking. I had a beautiful, beautiful Lamborghini. Everybody else of my counterpart had Lexuses, Maximas, and like black sedans. And I go, what a bunch of idiots. They don't want more out of life. And then you know what I realized that day? I was like, I'm the idiot, because there's one of me and there's 19 of them.
Yeah.
So it's not that they don't fit in, it's that I don't fit in. I'm the anomaly.
Yeah.
So when I got fired, I used to say, well, they fired something that was better than them and this and that. No, I could have played the game better. I could have driven a black car to work, parked it there, and not been a threat to them, right? But I decided that I was going to follow my aspiration, and my aspiration was greater than, therefore I fired myself to pursue my goals. And once I blamed myself for that, I found that nothing else in my life ever became an obstacle, because I was always the one that was at fault for anything that happened.
So I like what you're saying. I think it's so relevant. And folks, as we kind of wrap up today's segment here, I think one thing that I've taken away from this is that the comfort level is an illusion, right? Like, we're getting comfortable, and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. We've got our basic components, then we get the self-actualization at the top, and somewhere down the line we get food, shelter, clothing, and then we stop and we get comfortable. The problem is, some economic event in the world will happen that you can't control and I can't control, and you'll become a victim of it instead of becoming a victor during that season. Because at the beginning of this conversation, we talked about 2008 and what my friend did in 2008 and helped propel him. When other people were running away, he ran towards. And it reminds me of Warren Buffett. When others are fearful, be greedy. When others are greedy, be fearful. So as we wrap up here, Pejman, anything that for our friends who are inspired now by this conversation, because it's a very, very strong, motivational piece. What can they do, at this point, and what should they do in addition to, by the way, folks, make sure you follow my friend. We're going to throw all of his social tags and stuff on here. What should people do, though, at this point of the game who maybe are scared, my brother, and they're lost and they need some clarity or some of that purpose that you found when you lost that job?
I think two things. I know it's going to sound weird. The first thing I'm going to suggest is read Third Circle Theory. And I think it's important because Third Circle Theory provides a roadmap to helping you understand where you stand. And if you have clarity about where you stand, you can come up with a path on how to get towards the goals that are important to you. And secondly, more important than anything else, understand that being bound to a master, meaning having a job, living in a state, having a government, these aren't evil. they are tools that you can use to maneuver to make them work for you. And everybody has to learn to go through them, as uncomfortable as they are, before they get to the next stage where they can manipulate them to work for them. So one of the things that's key here is to make sure, under all circumstances, that you do not stay bound to masters, but at some point in your life, switch your view towards mastery. And I think that is the goal of every human being in the world. And I think if you can start somewhere, even if it was like me washing a car at $2 a car, $1 a car, or that to clean up shit off the floor, it doesn't make a difference. No one judges your journey, right? Because no one is going to rip the rewards like you do. So it does not matter if the journey is dirty, not exciting, painful. It's fine. Because in the end, when you're doing what you do, no one else can do what you do with what you've earned.
I love it. And they can't judge your journey because they're not going to go on it. So regardless, I've always got this meandering thought in my mind that we're always afraid of, like little Stevie from grade 5 who used to pick on us and make fun of us and told us we were dumb and stupid and whatever. Maybe it was our teacher, maybe it was somebody. But when we're 60 years old sitting in a nursing home, the only thing that matters is, are you eating out of a plastic spoon or metal silverware? And it's not going to matter what little Stevie said. That choice is really up to yours, folks. You got all the resources in Canada and the United States to do this. Pejman, such an amazing conversation, man. I'm so thankful for you. Thankful for the mentorship. I know you got one.
Make sure to subscribe to Ben on YouTube so you can stay up to date on everything Humble, featuring daily episodes of the Humble Podcast and weekly video content providing motivation, real estate strategies, and personal development for everyday life. Also, follow Ben on Facebook and Instagram for daily interactions. Check out humble.ceo and download a chapter of Ben's new book, From Communism to Capitalism, absolutely free.